Hi guys, today with us we have Coach Saatara from UC Berkeley. I'm really excited having Coach Saatara here. He's not just incredible coach, he's an incredible person as well, and you will see that within a couple minutes of this interview. And if you've ever met him in person, you already know this. He's going to share with us a little bit of his vast knowledge about throwing, about his coaching philosophy, about things he goes into in details in training, and what is he looking for in potential student athletes that he's recruiting. So if you're a parent or a high school coach or a coach in general, check it out to the end. He's going to share also a couple of things that he knows about Japanese mythology, so stick around for that. If you're new to this program, subscribe and enjoy the wisdom of Coach Saatara from UC Berkeley.
All right, Saatara, welcome. How's it going?
Doing great, thank you. Thanks, Martin, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here, taking your time. Now, Mo, we have a bunch of questions that people want to ask you. Obviously,
sure.
Very, very successful coach. You had
Thank you.
NCAA champions, Olympians. You've been coaching for quite a while. You've been coaching a lot of coaches. We're talking about.
Yeah, that's kind of thing I found out the other day thinking about it. A lot of the guys I coached became coaches too. So.
Yeah. So you're young, but you're not that young, right? You've been in the game for a while.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to somebody, and then they asked me like, "How many years have you coached?" Because you haven't been around that. You've been around, but I don't know. And I started thinking. I started coaching in '96.
96.
So almost 25 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I started coaching with my junior college coach. He had a throw far. You know, he's in Southern California. They do like the California high school championships, things like that. And he just told me, he said, "Hey, I really like coaching when I started. Like, I really enjoy coaching." And he said, "Hey, you want to do some of this? You know, try some of these guys." At the time, I was working in the research lab, and I was doing some research at I went to Cal State LA, and I was doing some work in the lab there, and then I was looking in the medical field and stuff. But I really enjoyed coaching a lot. I was really lucky. I had some really good kids. One kid ended up being state champion.
Wow.
One kid I coached, you were his teammate, I think, Ruben.
Yeah.
Ruben, some other guys like that. Regis. They were doing really good. And coach said, "Hey, you're pretty good at this," So got lucky, a little bit.
Very good. How did you get into throwing in the first place?
It's kind of accidentally. Like we moved here from Iran in 1983. My dad had some medical stuff, and then family decided to come over here. That time it was Iran-Iraq war and all that. We were kids, and the parents were like, we should probably. It was getting kind of crazy there, and then so we came here, and then I was in I think high school or something. The coach said, "Hey, they had a PE class. Like one of the things you had to do was track and field, so you had to do all the different things, like running and some of this other stuff. And actually, I was kind of good in like shot put,
Okay.
and then started doing that, and then got into college and junior college at first. I had no idea, by the way. It was funny. I had no idea there was different levels of college, like NCAA Division I, Division II. I didn't know anything, so I went to junior college because I could afford to go to a main university. I was actually kind of a couple of good different places, but at the time we were like different immigration status and stuff, so I had to pay a lot for school. So we decided like, okay, well, just go to junior college first year class, and I was lucky the junior college by my house was Citrus Community College. It's a really good school. So I said, okay, I go there, do my science stuff, and then after go to like another place. I had no idea. I got into throwing a little bit more, and then I had a really good coach, Lloyd Higgins. He's in Cerritos College now. He's a good man. He really helped me a lot.
Okay.
Good coach, really good person. Taught me a lot about life and other stuff too. Coaching, which is really big deal. Like just coaching isn't just, hey, do this, do that, something. You learn a lot about things. So he helped me a lot, and then anyhow, so I was like, okay, well, I'm done, because I was looking at the results for NCAA Division I. I was like, there's no way. That's all I thought it was just one NCAA. I didn't know there was So Don Babbitt, actually, I remember we were in Santa Barbara. The junior college thing was in Santa Barbara at the time. And so coach comes over and says, "Hey, I'm a coach at Cal State LA.
Yeah.
You wanna come there?" I said, "I don't even know what Cal State LA." I knew it was a school by the freeway because I saw it a few times going to Los Angeles. Anyhow, so I was like, "Yeah, but what is it?" Like, I'm not throwing. He's like, "No, you if you were Division II, you'd be like All-American." I was like, "What are you talking about? This is crazy. Division I, II, whatever." I went to my parents and said, "Hey, this guy can give me coach. It sounds like a good guy."
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I just remembered a little bit about recruiting because when I was in high school, John Fraser actually recruited me.
Okay. Wow.
He called my house. He was at UC Irvine at the time. I think he just started coaching. To this day, my mom will call me and say, "Hey, how's Coach Fraser doing?" Because he called our house like
Oh wow.
1,000 years ago, and he was really nice to her. And my mom remembers still to this day. When I talk to Ron, when I call her, she says, "Hey, how's Coach Fraser doing?" You know, and stuff like that. So like, you know, it's kind of cool, like how coaching in your life is together.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so I went to Cal State LA. It was a very good place. You know, Coach Babbitt was a really good coach. He's actually one of the best coaches in the world, you know. And he taught a lot. I learned a lot about observation, how to like pay attention to what's going on in training, and you know all the different parts of training and everything. And he had a lot of great coach throwers. He was young at the time. He's a lot of good coach throwers were coming to him to train.
Yeah.
I remember we won Olympic trials 1996. I'd already graduated from college. I was getting more and more into the coaching thing, just learning, you know. And he had like
Olympics,
like 6-7 people getting ready for trials at the time at Cal State. It was really cool to see that, you know, how it works, and it got me really motivated. I think I watched it. I could probably do this. You know, I want to getting more into it, and you know, I study my background. I got a degree in biology with Cal State. It was actually a good program, everything, and then that's some family stuff. My dad passed away. Some of these things happened, and then I decided, you know, like I really want to do something I like to do, because that was something big in my family. So if you want to do it, you got to be at a very high level. And it's typical, you know, Iranian family. Well, okay, fine, you want to do something, but you have to be at the top, you know. So okay, I can do it, you know. So I started. I wouldn't particularly recommend getting into coaching the way I did, because it's really hard now to do it like that. Because I started out as a volunteer coach at Cal Poly Pomona in 97. Before that, I was coaching the high school with my junior college coach, because at that time Coach Babbitt went to Georgia in 96.
96.
Anyhow, so then I started there. Then I had a coach there at Cal Poly. Said, "Hey, you want to come and work with this university? We need a throwing coach." I said, "Okay, sure." I started there 2 years. We won the conference meet, actually. I had a couple of girls that 2 of them were pole vaulters. We changed it to throwers.
Okay.
Anyhow, so then I went to Cal State LA for a few years, then went to Northern Arizona, then Michigan, then came to Cal.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is with Cal, you and Amin always telling me, you need to go to Cal. I remember in the 2008 or 7 or 8 or something, you went to NAU and an indoor. Hey, you should go for Cal.
Yeah, it took you 11 years.
Yeah, I got that. I didn't, but it was funny because I had connection to Cal throwers before that, like you guys. And,
yeah, even myself. I remember 2010, 9, 10, 11, especially 11. I remember calling you from Florida. Like, I'm stuck. I don't know how to improve my stand throw. What should we do? And you're like, okay, let's see what you got right now. Like, oh, okay, technically, this is what you got to do. You got to throw this far. Let's aim for this. It took us. It took you a couple years to get to Cal, but we were very happy to see you there.
Yeah, no, it was good. I'm happy too. It was a good place.
It's very close to heart to Amin and me, and myself, right? Amin and myself, and it's really a shame that they had to struggle some years, right? That some years were better than others.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing some great things over there.
Thanks. Yeah, try to have a stable foundation. You know, everything starts from a stable foundation. If you have a stable foundation, you have a good system. You know, training, recruiting, all that stuff goes together, right? So that's kind of what I started first.
I guess you needed, the Cal definitely needed someone like you, right? With experience.
Yeah.
Didn't came there with no results. Obviously, has some incredible results, and they didn't. They took time to find a good coach, and I'm very happy to see him here.
I'm glad I'm here. I fit good to the program. I really like the school. I mean, it's a nice place and everything, so it works nice. Obviously, the university and all that stuff. And I think the main thing I got there was, they've had some amazing athletes there, over the years. I mean, Olympians, national champion, discus, men, women, all sorts of stuff. I mean, if you go in the history of it, even the beginning, the first guy that was an NCAA champion for Cal was a hammer thrower.
Oh, really? Was it?
The pictures in the Hall of Fame, so it's a place that has a strong tradition for throws, and so, but it was always kind of in streaks, a little bit, few guys here, few guys there. So I look in the history and I said, hey, like when they were the best, Maggard was a coach, and he had a kind of a series of throwers over the years, like one after another. And if you look at the main throwing programs, this is how they're really good. Is they have a continuous flow of athletes year after year, right? So one guy graduates, another guy takes over, another guy, you know, like that. So when I came, that was my idea, was to establish some kind of a sequence of athletes, like first group, second group, another group, after, like recruiting, right? And like a school like Cal, it's hard because it's not just that you have to be a great athlete. You have to be a student, and you have to be able to stand for yourself. That's the one thing about Cal, is that it's competitive, but they really push the students to be like self-reliant, you know. So it's not for everybody per se, but if you find the right guys, the right girls that want to do that, then you can start kind of. So I that's how I started, step by step. I first was learning, right? So I talked to all the alumni. How did you do this? How did you do that? What's good? What's bad? Whatever. I mean, everywhere has good and bad, right? So you have to learn all that stuff. And then so I started looking at kids that fit into that kind of what we want to do. And then so I just started first group was already there when I got there from previous coach. And so I built on those guys. Next group was a little bit better. Next group was a little better. Hopefully this next group coming would be better even. So
I'm sure. I'm scared. I'm scared to see what you're bringing.
I'm scared of you guys. Everybody, I think we're going good. I look at the training results, everything in the fall. Like, hey, this is gonna be good. Then indoor starts. Like, oh my God, we're behind.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ramping up in the throws. I think. I think over the like my career just started from the starting till now. I've noticed is that there's a lot more coaches that have information. Access to information. It didn't used to be that much because a lot of people were kind of in kind of sections, the information. Some coaches knew things, some coaches
by country or by region, right?
Yeah, region, schools, something like that. There was some really big programs that you look up to back in the day, like back in the 90s and 80s, and it was like UCLA, I think was there. Some schools in the Midwest, a couple of them here and there. They had some people, and SMU was one of them. So those ones where everyone looked at, like if you could beat somebody from UCLA or SMU, like, wow, this guy is awesome, man. That guy, so that was kind of a standard, and you're down the street from them, then you okay, you have to fight at a high level.
LA area the whole time.
Yeah, so it was every week, like you're fighting, with results, recruiting, everything. So you have to be in a kind of learn to survive in that environment.
Also, like California, I mean, the history, we talked about this a couple of times. I mean, back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, that was the mecca of throwing for discus. Chapo, Mac, Wilkins, John Powell, those guys, right? They were there in California. That was what was happening, right? All the meets, little records were broken over there. So the whole California coast has so much history and so much information, like you said, coaches who coach there, that they can coach other coaches or other coaches can see. And that's why he has so many great coaches like yourself coming from California. And now I think, and we talked about this as well, with internet, with information, right? Like now people have information and materials like these, right? We try to share it because it helps our sport. It makes sports so much more exciting when you have records breaking, when you have 5 guys over 22 meters, right? It helps everybody, right? It trickles down to us. And I think that you think that might be the reason why.
I think a lot of it is that people are starting to get access, right? So if more people know how things are being done and stuff, it helps a lot. I think it goes in kind of waves, like looking at it. Since I got lucky, I got to talk to a lot of people from around the world. So there's like waves of development, like in the you were saying in the 70s, and that people came to California, the throwers came and they started experimenting a lot. Like try this, try that on Oldfield or Wilkins or someone. All those trying different things kind of figured some stuff out. It was very experimental. Then after there was a period of time where people were like, okay, we're going to do what those guys did. So they kind of got a little bit of stagnation. Then again, another wave came, like I think with internet and information, people started getting information like, hey, how come I need to do it like this or that or whatever? So they started kind of
like this guy
figuring things out. And then kind of now I think we're in a period of time where people are being more kind of, I guess, looking at things differently. More, the ideas are more open. So they do that. But I think in my experience in the U.S., I think a lot of times throwing is driven by like very strong personalities. Like somebody like Oldfield comes and says like, "This is how you do it," and everybody's okay, I'll do it like that. Or when Coach Venegas, someone like like the very famous college coaches like Venegas, Smith, those guys are going to say like, I do it like this. People, okay, I'm going to do it like that. I think the idea is you have to learn how they did it more so than what they did. They have a methodology. I think learning the methodology is more important than exactly what they did, because you know, I've talked to even like Dr. Bondarchuk or someone like that. You talk to him like, hey, this is how you should do things.
Yeah.
Then the question is, well, what did you do when those guys were throwing the world records? Like, that's what I want to know. I don't, you know, I want to know what those guys are doing. But then or even like with the other guys, the shot putters and other people, you start thinking like, how do they do it? Is probably a more important question.
Yeah.
Than what happened, because a lot of things will happen. A lot of it is also driven by the athletes. So if you have a great athlete, has a lot of abilities and potential, they're going to do some crazy stuff. So it's like, do you have to do this crazy
Regardless
stuff?
of how bad or good the program is, right? If they're stud athletes, they're going to do some incredible things. Now, the question is how far could they have thrown if they throw it different ways, right?
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of gets I think to me is a big factor is watching is what's the methodology?
Yeah.
Okay, so like, how did you go? Like,
yeah, what do you mean by methodology?
Like, so like every like, if you, this kind of goes outside of throwing, so it gets a little bit complicated. So anything you do, you know, like you want to I don't know, you want to clean your house, or you want to build a car, or I don't know, whatever you want to do. Everything has a system, a method. You know, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 5, etc., right? So even coaching has a method too, right? So like when you're coaching somebody in the throwing events, say shot put, discus, whatever, hammer, javelin, there's a method. What is a sequence of activities you do to coach that person to do what it is they're gonna do? So that kind of sets up that sets up your overall organizational approach, right? So if you know what I'm saying, so this is very important, because if you have and there's not a wrong system, people are throwing far from all over the world, you know.
Right. Okay.
You know, always saying like, you know, the Soviet did this, or Americans did that, or somebody else did something else, and it's like, if you look at all those guys, what they did, now they might be completely different. Somebody used more weight room, somebody used more throwing, somebody used whatever. It's not like, it's not, so those things come out later, but initially, if you look at the organization, how they put everything together, that gives you an idea about the procedures they went through to get to where they got to. Okay, so
put together like a plan for like 4 years, or like what they need to work.
How did they do that? Not so much the plan itself, because that's the outcome, right?
Yeah.
When I put a training plan together, that I put it on paper, 4-year plan, 3-year plan. Most of the kids that, for me, they come to training, we have 4 or 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And if they're really good, you're gonna go 8-year plan. Okay, something like that, for example.
Yeah.
But how did I come up with that plan? That's the question.
Yeah.
Right? How did I get to that plan? Because people always will look at that, like, how did you? Well, what do you do for your training? It's always a question. Somebody asks me, what do you guys do? Okay, I do this, I do something else, I do like lifting.
Right, for whom? Yeah.
Yeah, like, but how do I come up with the decisions? That's probably more important. Why did you come up with that? That should be more of a question. Why? You know. So that's the first step. Why do they do what they do? That gives you a lot of answers. You know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like
the change in. This is, I mean, we talked about you the other day, right? And he wanted to ask you this because he thinks it's very important to know for kids to know about your development, right? So,
sure,
your evolution of programming and technique since you were at Cal State. You know, guys like Tambi and Tyrus, right? And then NIU with Jeremy and Javier, right? And then you had Cody Rifle, right?
Yeah.
At Michigan, and those guys, and now with Simon McKay and Josh. How you had some incredible throws, right? How did your understanding change on your programming? So
I think understanding changed about technique first.
Okay.
So my understanding of technique changed a lot over the years. In the beginning, that's not beginning. Some continuation of my understanding of the technique is what my coaches understood about. So I learned from them. I read information, I studied, whatever. Yeah. So when I started, the idea was very much like be in certain positions, right? Mm-hmm. And it started changing more toward movement, like rhythm, movement. And then I guess that's where it started from. And initially it was like, you know, you have to be in this position, you have to be in this position, et cetera, that kind of thing. Hitting positions, like technical, like that kind of thing, like videoing a lot, freeze frame, slow motion, all that kind of stuff. Looking at the relationship of different exercises, I started from because I just thought about it, like, you know, observation. Mm-hmm. You know, I started observing, like, if I gave you a workout, what would happen from that workout? If I give 2 workouts, 3 workouts, 10 workouts, etc. I didn't really
Which one?
at that time I hadn't been exposed to a lot of the information. I was looking at it more from like I was coming from a science background, right? So I wasn't looking at it per se in a pedagogy or that information was hard to get by at the time, like in the late mid 90s. There was some of that, but it was very specific to like motor skills and that kind of thing, which obviously sport is motor skills, but anyways, that's another story. But so I just, in the beginning, my coaching idea was a very technical, like position oriented type stuff. Then I get a better understanding of biomechanics and what biomechanics is, because that's one thing that people have to know. Biomechanics is just a descriptive science. Like this guy did this, his leg bent this many degrees and extended this much. You don't know why he did it. You just see what happens.
Yeah.
So this is kind of very crude, rudimentary method of understanding. And as the years went on, I went more toward like procedures. What are you trying to do? You know? And that's the one question I remember in the beginning. Some of my good athletes asked me, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And I asked them, why are you doing it? Something like that. Like so. It went from how to why, basically. So now I'm more interested in like procedures. What are you trying to do more to implement? Because I begin learning understanding of the nervous system and how it works. And I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about nervous system. What is the nervous system? How it works, and that kind of thing. I mean, obviously, it's kind of a really specific question for neuroscience, and that's its own thing, right? It's important to know, but I don't know.
It is very important.
So it's like, well, we understand. The more you understand how people like just basically work, the better coach you become. Because if you understand, usually we're working on outcome. Yeah. When you want to tie your shoelace, you're not thinking about loop your finger. Maybe when you're 2 years old, you do it, but after
you look at the big picture, yeah, right? Outcome.
Yeah, you gotta understand what's the outcome. So your body was working is set up to give you outcome. Okay, go to the door, open this, hit that, do something. So if you teach outcomes, okay, I want you to make this happen. Yeah. They're gonna do the right things to make it happen. So the coaching has evolved in that manner. Whereas I let the athletes have much more freedom in terms of like how they're gonna do something. I just want to see what comes out. Like I need to see, for example, shot putter, right? Yeah. If you watch shot put in the rotational shot, important is you have to have double support time on the ground. Yeah. Okay, so if you don't have,
things are basic, right? Some things you cannot go around with, right?
Yeah, that's the one. If you have good double support time, you're gonna throw far. It doesn't matter. If you look at the what's it called? If you look at this last summer, the World Championships, right? The guys threw like 2290.
Over 2250.
Incredible throwing, So it's like, well, those guys are throwing so far. It's crazy, like 3 guys in the same meet. Can you imagine that? And the other guys, it's not like the other guys are throwing crappy. They were throwing 2150.
It took 2150 to get 8th.
Yeah. To get 2150, you could win medals like almost the whole history. So obviously they're super talented. But if you watch what they're doing, okay, and how they're doing it, there's a kind of, they all have different technique, Walsh, Krauser, Kovacs, all the other guys. They all have their own technique, kind of. I think they just come up with this, and they have different coaches and different this and that and all kind of stuff, right? But if you watch them you can see there's some commonalities. Yeah. So I can take one thing from somebody and say, okay, this is the way he does it, this is the right way. But the better idea is, what did all those guys have in common? That's probably more useful in general. Then you can find your own kind of stylistic variations than that. Yeah. So that's how I guess my coaching has become more like that. Oh, yeah. More in terms of like, what's the procedures and what are the main things that we have to do, and just okay, how you do it. Somebody's 6'5", somebody's 6'2". Yeah. I don't know. The personality too is important. Personality. Some throwers, I learned this over time. Somebody's very aggressive. Yeah. If you're a very aggressive person, I'm in competition. Okay, calm down. That's just completely against the person's chemistry. Like they're gonna be aggressive. You should. That's the tool
for
them.
Let them beat them, right? Let them beat them.
Yeah, that's very important. So I think a lot of times if you start getting too technical or something like that, and it takes away that athletic part of them doing it, not the coach. The coach is just there.
So would you agree that throwing is more of and planning of programs is more of an art than science? Well, or is it both, right?
I think that the reality is it's a lot more of an art form than a science, because if you're talking about science, we're talking about something that we can prove in a very, very hard manner. Yeah. Observation. But there's methods that we can use from scientific approaches. One thing that I like to see a lot of is like, this is a scientific research study, or so. What does scientific even mean? What's that word, the meaning of it, right? It means we're doing observations. And this is what science is. I think this is going to happen. Something's going to happen.
Process is until you prove it wrong, right?
Right. And then I observe, and then the observation will tell me, okay, well, did we see this happen or not? You know, like then you can do some sort of statistical modeling to say, okay, well, we did this validation of what we saw was actually what we saw. You know what I mean? And then it gets into statistics and all that other stuff. But mainly when somebody tells me something is scientific, I'm going to be a little bit like, take a step back, because, well, how many people did you have? You know, most of the coaches, even if you coached 50 years, you're maybe going to.
What's talent that you had, right? What kind of
talent
you talk about?
Oh, even, I mean, talent level, number of people, you know what I mean? These kind of things is going to be limited a lot. So a lot of things that we see as coaches are anecdotal evidence trends. You know, I had five throwers.
Yes.
I saw a trend. Okay, maybe it's my trend.
Yeah.
Somebody else is something else. You know what I mean? So it's you have to use observation a lot. So when you setting up training, you have to pay attention. So like I did one thing. I used to talk with Don a lot about testing. I did testing 10 years.
Thunderhead, yeah.
Yeah, throwing, lifting, this, that, 3 jumps, 5 jumps, all kind of stuff. I did it for years and years and years. And then I started looking at the lifting and the shot putters, right? And over the years, you know, and I had the guys at Cal CLA, guys at NAU. This was when I was at, it was my last years at NAU. I just kind of started doing something like see what I would have done. And I started coming up with some kind of conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't fit well with what I had learned.
Okay.
You know, like one conclusion was Olympic lift wasn't very connected to how far you throw in the shot put.
Wasn't quite correlated, right, to the distance. Okay.
But
about overhead
push jerk, bench press, squat was very good. That was crazy, because I talked to Amin about it. He's like, no, that's nonsense. That can't be. I'm telling you, man, this is what I'm saying. Yeah. we were in like kind of a state of upheaval, and I started looking into Dr. Bondarchuk's stuff, because I read some stuff about it, and in some of the stuff that they were doing, these kind of correlation studies and stuff like that. I got some of that info, and I started looking into some of that stuff, and it was like, whoa, and kind of saw some kind of patterns that they had seen. They had a lot more athletes than I did. Yeah. So I kind of said, well, I see the same thing this guy had, like, used
30 years ago.
Bigger population to see it. I used a really small population. I said the same thing. So, and I did some other stuff for other event groups, just checking it out and see what works, how the training works. So I came up with some ideas about things, how things may work, and I you know, experiment with my athletes. As coaches, you say, oh, you experiment with your athletes. That's horrible, but that's what we do anyways. Every time we tell somebody to do something, it's an experiment. It's
not an experiment that you're not you don't know what you're doing. It's more of an experiment to see what works for that person, right?
Yeah.
As you talk now, there's so many different things that work for different people, and you have to find that there's no mold that fits all, right?
Yeah, no, it's not, and that's the thing that a lot of people, I think, that you were asking about, whether it's a science or whether it's a art. I think what people want to say by science, they want to say is it a standardized approach?
Yes.
Right. I want a standard approach.
Everybody else.
A, B, C, D, E, F. Put it there. Put it in a microwave. Open it and eat it.
Yeah.
That's what people want. That's what they think is science. It's not science per se. You know. Tell me what I need to do. Yeah. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Follow. It's like buying a furniture from IKEA. You know, you go in there, you look in it, and then you're like, okay, put the screw here, put the plate there. That it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like you said, it's not like IKEA furniture, right? Like they put it.
Yeah. No, it's not like that. I wish it was to make life easier.
Yeah.
You know?
For everybody. Now, do you think because there's so many things that affect a thrower? So if you look at the person, you don't look at the person as a car, right? There's like these parts. You put this fuel, maximum is 200 miles an hour. But for the person, you got to look at height. Strength, you see more endurance, you see more explosive, sleep, food, social life, technical, how he can or she can adopt a technique, right? So this, you got this, not one formula. You got all these thousands of information that you are trying to put together, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look at pretty much. I mean, you can't look at all that, obviously, but they're there. They're factors that are going to affect you, right? They're obviously, those are things that you have to consider, but you got to look at it in terms of every place has its own setup, chemistry.
Okay.
You know, its own, like, there's certain things you can do somewhere. There's certain things you can't do there, whether it's training or recovery or whatever. You know, training. You know, if I have a weight room that doesn't have a squat rack, I mean, what do I do?
Yeah. What do you do?
Okay, but so I can build a squat rack. Maybe I can't. I don't know. You know, I'm just saying, like, so each place has its own positives and negative influence. So athlete, you know, if they don't do a good job of resting, for example, the training is going to go down. So I can't train as hard. So the training volume goes down, like workload, intensity, everything goes down. Then they say, oh, how come you can't give us more training? It's, well, you're not resting enough.
You're not fresh, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to increase your rest, and then we can do more work. You can recover. You know, that's the other thing too. Like, so the main factors usually will come in kind of a bulk situation. You know, like schoolwork, training load, this stuff, things. Like, for example, you go to a university like University of California or Virginia, somewhere, academic school. Everyone says, oh, you can't train as hard. Yeah, you can train hard. You can train very hard, but you can't do extra stuff. Maybe I don't warm up for an hour and a half. Maybe I only warm up 10 minutes. You got to decide what's more important. Maybe we need to spread out the training over a longer period of time or something like that. Maybe we need to plan in, like, okay, this week you're going to have a test or something. Maybe this week we go a little bit down or something like that, you know. So it's not that impossible, but I think a lot of times paying attention to the environment gives you a lot of kind of initial instant clues as to what you can and can't do, and a continuous feedback. And I think another really important part is that coaches have to be very flexible, open-minded. You know, I use this kind of idea with my throwers. They talk about kendo, which is fighting sword. You know, they divided up the whole thing after the Japanese society changed. They divided up all the martial arts and stuff. Anyway, so kendo's are for fighting with a sword, and then part of it is understanding how this katana is built. You know, so if you look at a katana, it has two characteristics. The body is very springy and flexible, but the edge of it is very, very sharp. But philosophically, the idea should be that you have to be flexible, but don't break. You know, you have your principal ideas, but you have to be flexible to change.
Okay.
When you change, right? Situation changes. You have to have different ideas to change. I think a lot of times with coaching, that's very important. Changing, because demographic changes, athletes change, training results change, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So that's critical.
It's very individual. I think a lot of coaches, and this is going to be my following question for you.
Sure.
I think most coaches get into this success kind of trap, right? Like we talked about, you had a little group, 5, you know, not you yourself, a coach that had like 5 guys that did well, and they're like, okay, this is it. This is only what I'm doing because it's working. So they fall into the trap. So what would you advise to your younger self, or what would be your advice for young coaches?
I would say pay attention. Pay attention. You know, the most of the answers you're looking for in front of your face. Okay, pay attention to what's going on. Not what you want to go on, but you want to be going on. Like, I want this to happen, or I want that to happen, or whatever. Pay attention to what is actually going on. What's going on in training? What's going on in technique? Are the things that you're teaching getting through to the athletes, or are you getting the results you want from the training? Pay attention a lot. Keep track of things as they work at the time, and also as time goes on. Because a lot of times what we'll do is we'll do something real nice and it works nice, and then you go back and you look at like, man, that was garbage. It looked good at the time, but you know, you look back 6 months later, like, oh boy, that looked good, but man, I probably shouldn't have done that. And being able to kind of take criticism, or just kind of being able to I like my conversation with my athletes is always like, I want to hear things that you don't like to tell me. Like, this isn't good, this isn't working, something like that. Those are the important things. If you always tell me everything's fine, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, it's kind of like Pollyannic, you know, like, oh, everything's always fine. It's not. I mean, it'd be great if it was, but reality is some of the things are going to be good, some of the things are going to be bad, some of the things are going to be absolutely don't ever do them again. Some things are like, wow, we need to always do that.
Yeah.
So it sort of spreads out. So I think my thing is always like, if something works, that's good, continue, use it. If something doesn't work, don't do that. You know, a lot of times I see, like, talking to really good athletes, it's like, you know, they'll tell you, like, I was really good at this, or I was really good at that when I was throwing, you know, I was really good at something. They weren't, you know, yeah, okay, at your very best, what were you good at? They're like, I was good at this and this, like one or two things, usually one or two things.
Bench
Like, oh,
or something, right?
so it's like, you know, a lot of people will be like, well, I want to have a balanced, spread out athlete. That's actually an idea that came from the late 19th, early 20th century athlete, you know, the ideal athlete is a balanced athlete. Like, he can do everything, right?
The Catholic.
They can jump and run and pull-ups and dips and run a mile and all this other stuff, which is, yes, if you're playing football, a high school kid, something like that, that's absolutely perfect. But if they only care how far you throw a shot put or how far you throw a hammer, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
They don't care if you're balanced or unbalanced or whatever you are. The only thing they're only caring is, can you? That's what you're competing in.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people take this mindset in like, strength training happens a lot. Oh, you need to have a balance, this and that. There's like anatomical balance, physiological balance, so you don't get injured, obviously. You know, work capacity, muscle balance, those things. That's something else. But I don't care how many pull-ups my thrower does. I care how far they throw in a hammer.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think Christian Cantwell could high jump really high, right? Somebody like Christian Cantwell, but he can bench press and throw a shot put really far, right?
Yeah, he was famous for shot putting. You know what I'm saying? So that those are the things I'm more interested in. You know, like, that's what I would say. Don't worry about so much the little things. Get a good idea, stick to it, see what happens.
How do you track your athletes if they are overburned, if they're a little tired? How can you tell it? How do you adjust that workout? What are some things that you look for?
So what I do is, usually when we go to training, it starts what I usually do is I'll talk to everybody before they come to practice, before we start. We're throwing. Hey, how you feeling today? Some 2 minutes. How you doing? That's a simple, easy way. You know, hey, I feel good. I feel like crap. You know, like something like it. Sometimes they're like, I don't know how I feel. I get that from some of the guys a lot. Like, I don't know how I feel. They they'll muscle through the workout, and it's afterwards like, man, that was not a smart idea. I should have backed off. So what I do is I just ask simple questions, and I pay attention to what's going on with the throws. You know, in terms of like the shot and disc, right? I would imagine a bit with javelin too. If I see the stand throw, right, that gives you a lot of answers. The stand throw is really, especially shot put,
indicator, huh?
almost direct correlation to power output. It has technique. It has a lot of components, but if you're proficient at it, you can tell from the level of stand throw, are they there or not? You know, if I have a 20-meter shot put, it comes stand throw is usually like around 17, and he's throwing like 15-meter stand throw. Okay, something's not exactly correct.
Oh, something happening that he's not telling me, right?
Yeah, so maybe he doesn't even feel it. You know, it happens to some. Like, I feel great, but then it's like, well, maybe I don't feel great, but maybe I do. I don't know. You know what I mean? Sometimes you pay attention to the different relationship of different implements. If you're throwing multiple implements, you know, light hammer, heavy hammer, medium hammer, whatever, heavy, etc. Okay, you know, like say with Camryn, we do heavy training. You know, she can do heavy training forever. There's no problem. But if I look at the different weights, you know, if I have a 8 kilogram, 6 kilogram, 4 kilogram, 3 kilogram, or something like that. It's a recent program. If the strength, if she's tired, nervous system is tired, like 3 kilo, 4 kilo, 3 kilo is going down.
Okay.
Right, the distance goes down. Like, okay, well, you're tired. But you know, the heavy ones isn't changing. Maybe even they even go up a little bit sometimes, because now you have a chance to work harder at a lower speed, so you can do more work. But paying attention to those relationships tells you a lot. And then obviously in the weight room, you know, the weight room, I think a lot of people get too enamored with this programming of the weight room. I think I would wager to say probably the majority of throwing coaches will design the weight room, then they design the throwing around the weight room.
Okay.
Right? They're gonna say, I'm gonna do a three-week training plan. Okay, and week 1 we have intensity this. Next week in the second intensity. Next week third intensity. The fourth week down. Right? They watch a video from Werner Gunther.
Yeah.
Right? And you know, the extensive, intensive, all that.
Right.
You know, but the thing is, they didn't talk to the coach.
Yeah.
Because the part is not in the video is the training for the throws and how they did that. Because for the throwing coach has to design the throwing first, and the other components goes with that part of training. Most people will train to design the lifting, and then they put the throwing with it. So then the question is, are you a lifting coach or a throwing coach?
Yes. What's your event? Is it lifting or is it throwing? Right.
Because this is a problem with a lot of coaches. They're looking in the weight room too much. You know, it's just important. The weight room is very important. Don't get me wrong. You know, like I've never coached somebody that was a good thrower that wasn't strong. Okay, so but if you look in the weight room, you're not looking in a circle. If you look in a circle, then obviously weight room, then you can see things. You know, usually if the explosive power is down, the explosive lift goes down, right? Strength lift don't really change too much. You can kind of keep going up. But if you're trying to hit percentages instead of what the work capacity is, you can look at bar speed, those kind of things. Obviously, you have devices and equipment and you can do all this stuff nowadays. But really look at the quality of movement. You can tell what's going on. If quality of movement is going down, they're tired. Usually a few days before they really hit the wall. Because initially they don't feel it. They're going to be, I'm okay. And then 2 days later, oh my God. And then it couldn't be injuries too, right?
Yeah.
Let it happen too long, you're going to get injured, you know? So you have to pay attention to what's going on. You see patterns.
Yeah.
You know?
So along those lines, in your patterns, how do you, like somebody like Camryn, right? Like she comes and wins NCAAs right time. She throws really far at the right time, right? How do you peak your athletes like that? Or do you peak them differently? Somebody like Camryn or somebody like Michaela?
Yeah. So you learn lessons. This is a problem. It sucks. You have to learn your lessons. I started this kind of idea for a long time. It was kind of my pet project. Obviously, it's a very important project. It's not a pet project, but how peaking, what is it? Or how is it or whatever. So I started, first I had some good athletes. They were getting ready. Sometimes they would be ready in the right time. Sometimes they would miss it by a day or two. Like with Peter, day after NCAA's his senior year, he threw a 2090 training.
Oof.
Next day, one day, 24 hours.
Wow.
What happened? 24 hours.
What did it happen?
Yeah, timing. Pattern.
Like was he tired? What happened?
No, you have to pay attention. Like what my answer is watching that, for example, different people.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a sequence of events that goes on, right? A, B, C, D, whatever, like sequence. And there's a sequence in a week where you get adapted to the sequence, flow of training. Hard day, easy day, rest day, another day, something else. Yeah. This is kind of biorhythm. It's not exactly the right word for it, but it's like almost like a circadian type of a situation, long-term pattern of adaptation.
Okay.
That you train long enough, you get it, you know, over time. You can even hear from the old athletes, retired athletes. In the spring I feel really good all the time, man. I'm not even training anymore. I feel so good. Then fall, I don't feel so good. I'm tired. It's. I think you adapt long term, and even athletes. If you look at the training days, there's certain training days after a sequence of previous training, they're gonna have a good day. This their kind of like a peak day. So if you know which peak day it is, and then you can also see how much training do I have to do before to get to this situation. I mean, you're coaching them all the time, so you should be able to keep track of this stuff, right? It's not some kind of like,
It's not
magic.
if you pay attention to it, right? It's not.
Yeah, if you pay attention, okay, if this guy goes day 1, day 2, day 3, okay, day 3 he's the best. So if I go to a competition, I adjust things that day 3 is my competition day, whatever that is, you know. So that's what I did with them, you know. And also the other part is like the mental preparation, like athletes. You know, I was talking about earlier a little bit your personality. So with Camryn, like we learned a lot about her personality. Like forever, she was throwing hammer a long time at home with her coaches. Coach Collier was the original coach, and Garrett Collier, the son, he coached her, but then she came to me, and the standard of hammer throwing: be calm, be collected, be relaxed. You have to be relaxed. You have to be very relaxed, extra relaxed, almost dead. Like, this kind of thing. Like, so that's how she threw. Like, okay, coach, if I'm relaxed, and then so I made some notations her freshman year. And I said, hey, when you went to Pan Am Junior, you won the Pan Am. What was happening? She's like, I was very nervous. I was really scared I was gonna mess up because my coach wasn't there, etc., etc. I said, oh, but you won. She's like, I know. I don't know how I won, but I won through PR, national record. Then for freshman year, we went to competitions, and this is kind of burned into my memory, so it's kind of like one of my favorite stories, not to say.
Yeah.
So freshman year, we went to a competition in Arizona State. So the day before competition, I saw the start sheet. By the way, I study everything when you do competition. Who's there? What do they do? What's the best throw? What round? Etc. Everything. So I told her, hey, listen, Maggie Owen's gonna throw tomorrow, and she went crazy, like, oh my God, Maggie! And the pre-meet was supposed to be easy. She threw really far, like, oh wow! And then that day she threw PR. I put in my notes, overstimulated PR, right?
There you go.
Right. So I put it there. Went to another competition, did a little bit down, but training was going up, right? This is a story more psychological.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, now she's going to throw 66, 67, something like that. She was like number 1 in the world, all this stuff, junior and all that stuff, right? So we go to another competition, nothing. And then we have a competition in Berkeley. It's our kind of like a test competition where I make them throw in heavy training load. Mm-hmm. So they're training really hard, and they go to competition because it's a week before conference. That tells me what it is actually, what you can do, because training result and competition result different.
Yeah.
So we go there, and then Sophie Hitchinson came to Tor Gustafsson, my friend. He said, hey, I want to bring Sophie competition before she goes to Britain. I said, okay, sure, bring her. It's going to be fun. So I told Camryn, hey, Camryn, again, Sophie's coming. Oh, my God, Sophie. Oh.
Yeah.
Crazy, and Sophie broke the stadium record. She's like 70 PR, 72 something. It was a very good meet for her. And Camryn broke the Canadian junior record. Again, I put in my notes, PR, overstimulated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Went to conference. She got in 3rd place. Was not happy about it, but we had problem with the warm up, everything. But the same, went back to the same style. Relax, calm, be calm, blah blah blah. Went to
regionals.
NCAA regional competition. So I know she can do like 63, 64, no problem, and qualify. Mm-hmm. So this is the part stuck in my head. She was in the line warming up, and I said, "How are you doing?" She said, "Oh, I'm just trying to be really relaxed and just get warmed up, be relaxed."
And you're like, no.
No, wait, no, I didn't notice that at the time. It's okay, yeah, good.
Okay, so
she was in 13th place by 1 centimeter. 61. It was the worst result, and I just go home like it was completely impossible because all the other guys made it. The hammer thrower, Silvio made it, Peter made it, McKay made it. Everyone made it. It was very good. Even the other Josh, who was still coming up, he was PR, everything nice. Even the guy, football player, PR, everything. I'm like, what the hell? Yeah. What did I do wrong? Going back home. I go back home, and now we're getting ready for World U20 because can't stop the season now because she was very. Keep going. She's a very tough girl. She'll fight through everything.
Okay.
So I go home. I take my notes. I start reading. Mm-hmm. I start reading. Oh, every time I put down overstimulated PR, and then regular no PR. I was like, hey, you're not very smart person, are you, Mo? Because the answer was right there in the paper.
Yeah. Wow.
I told my wife, she's like, what are you doing? Like, don't you pay attention?
It's obvious. Sometimes we miss them, right? Like it's
so after that, I said, okay, we went to Worlds, and then I was at NCAAs and stuff, and she a little bit she rolled her ankle. She went to Finland and then messed up an injury, hurt her stomach. And many people don't know about that. She was injured. They almost took her from the meet.
Yeah.
So I told her, I said, look, here's the deal. This is what I need you to do. I want you to go crazy. Because if you don't win, it's going to be terrible. You spend so much energy, etc., all these things. Yeah. And she went, I said, probably this competition, first round, everything is settled in the first round because of the competitors and everything. So she goes there. I said, I'm like, look, go there. If you don't come out, to the death, just go. Yeah. So if you know me from competitions, I get pretty fired up. So she went to the competition, and exactly executed exactly. But that I learned from that psychological for her was you have to be very, 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 very fired up, more extra.
More stimulated for her. It worked. Yeah.
Yeah, I have other athletes. You know, I have another guy's discus thrower. I don't talk to him. He's calm. It's almost like he's sleeping. Josh shot putter. He's very calm. Always very calm. Hey, it's okay. Everything's fine. Great job. Take it easy. You know, a guy now, McKay's he goes crazy. So that's him. You know, but I like them to do what they're gonna do. That's I learned this lesson, a very hard lesson, and so that goes to peaking. It's not just physical. Because physical peaking is easy. A little bit less, a little bit resting, whatever, and then you're good to go. But psychological peaking is also another factor to consider.
And that's where you get those big throws, right? That's when you get PRs, when you're mentally and physically at the peak, right?
Right. Yeah, and it comes from stability too. You know, I know there's one thing. Always, I remember you had Philippe, right? Big guy. Yeah. I told the guys, I'm like, that guy is dangerous because he can always throw like 20-50, 20-70. He can always throw this stupid distance like a machine. You know what I mean? And I'm like, that guy is dangerous because his average performance is very high.
Yeah.
So if your average performance is very high or is kind of coming up, you're going to be able to throw really far. The PR isn't such a good indicator because, you know, you have a good day, you catch one, or, you know, you go to San Diego, you hang the discus out that right sector. And this
goes forever, right?
You know, hey, man, my PR is like, you know, whatever. But the average performance, it's not very sexy. It's not very exciting. It's kind of miserable.
Yeah.
You want me to hit the same distance 50 times or whatever. If your stability goes up, that means you're ready for a jump somewhere down the line.
So in high school athletes, do you look for that when you're recruiting? So when
I recruit people
here than some in different schools, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, the first thing we look at is academics. That usually kind of, you know, that's number obviously, but you have to be, you know, that's a very serious part of it. But what I look at is how well are they doing in major competitions. That's what I'm interested in. You know, guys, a lot of people, I PR, like I threw the hammer, you know, this one, whatever. How did you do in the major championship? Were you in the qualifying round? Did you go up in the qualifying round? For example, maybe it's an international athlete or American kid. Did you go to, you know, New Balance or state championship? How did you do in your state meet? You know, like guys, you know, coach, my PR is like 205 or something, whatever. Okay, that's great, congrats. But what did you do in the state meet? Yeah. 172.
So that's your PR.
Kind of, you have to be, you know, competitive. Like you have to, I want to see that they like to fight. They like to compete. You know, that's the kind of personality I'm looking for. You know, so I look at the result from championships a lot. Stability obviously is very important. You know, I don't like this zigzag, you know, up, down, like that. I don't like that. That's dangerous, I think. How much coaching do they get? Some kids, you know, that's the one thing I always feel saying, coach, I don't have a coach. But, you threw 65 feet. I don't have a coach. It's like, I don't care if I don't have a coach. You threw far. You know, and then the other one, another kid, I have a coach, a nutritionist, a strength trainer, a publicist, something else. You know, and now it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, you don't have that at Cal. We have a coaching and support staff. That's it. You have to be able to fight. And you don't have all these other people. Then, you know, maybe that's too much reliance. I want to see what they can do on their own person. You know,
the pressure is up. What they're made of, right?
Yeah. When you go to championship, there's no coach.
Yeah.
You know,
there's no coach, like what can like big championships. You're not gonna say like, well, you know, lift your hand a little bit like this. Maybe a couple of things, but overall, it's like, what are you made of, right?
Mainly, yeah, it's just mainly strategy at that point, tactics. Like, you know, what you were talking about the championships last year. We technical conversation was very simple. Scoot over to the left.
Okay.
That was it.
That was it.
Scoot over to the left so the ball doesn't go out the right sector.
Okay.
Because she did, you know, she kept the orbit. She got the orbit in the right place. And okay, good. Now you go there and it goes, you know. And mainly it was just like, hey, this girl did this, because you know, when you're in your zone, you don't pay attention. You have to pay. Sometimes in those kind of meet like that, where it's fighting so much, is really strong. I mean, they were coming. That was amazing competition, by the way. Like the women's hammer was incredible.
Well, it took
so many PRs.
What about that? To be top 9? What was the 9th place? I forget. 65?
67 high.
Yeah. That one. Not so many.
Every like almost you can win it almost every one of them for like many years. Like it's tactical. So you have to understand that tactical aspect too in the competition, right? What do I need to do to beat somebody? It's not necessarily obviously the guy that throws further wins, but Joe Kovacs did it right at the last round. Boom! In he forced the other guys to have to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he was trying to throw his best every round, but he just he put it together at the right time.
Well, that meme was just out of. I mean,
It's crazy.
22 by Wallace, and then 20. Oh my God, 22.90 by Ryan.
Well,
You get.
I mean,
you throw 22.58, and you get fourth. You don't even get a fourth for that.
Fourth
record.
The only other competition like that you can imagine is 1988 Olympics.
The shot also okay.
If you take, I mean, obviously the distances are crazy, but I'm saying in terms of the competitiveness of it.
Oh yeah.
88 was like that, like Timmerman, Barnes, Gunther. These guys are going. So many guys were like they could have got medals, and they were just fighting. And then then Barnes gets to throw off, and then Timmerman answered it.
Yeah.
But it was at a level where it was at Olympic record level. Now, now forward to 2020. Now they were 2019. I'm sorry. They're fighting, but for Walsh to answer, he had to break the world record, pretty much.
You know what was? I mean, everything about that competition is incredible, right? I was jumping up and down like this is the best movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yes,
incredible.
Somebody should make a movie about it. Yeah.
What struck me the most, also, we're talking about it's October. It's October. These guys, well, I'm talking about peaking. These guys been throwing indoor, outdoor, May, like all these Diamond League meets, right? Romani goes to the Diamond League in US, 260, right? Like, and this is like 3 months before. Like, how do you stay in shape that long?
I think the idea has become that they're going away from. Somebody wrote an article many years ago, like about maybe in 2000 maybe or 99 or something like that periodization is dead.
Okay.
It was in a scientific article, scientific journal, not article. So periodization is dead. And the backlash was incredible. Oh, why would you say that? This is crazy. But the idea of that guy was that all sports, the seasons are not seasons anymore. If you're a track athlete, your season could be 6 months long, 10 months long. If you're a professional athlete, the season, it's not like it's getting longer. There's more championships spread out different places and things like that. So the traditional kind of the Bompa, those guys, the mentality for periodization, like strength phase, power phase, phase, something else, strength, and then you go into the season, a very set season, right? If I have like a set I know like my season is from April to May or end of May, two months. This is my season. It's always 2 months. Yeah. I can prepare in this manner. Step one, do like that. But what if my season is, May, June, August, November, something else, another one next year? I can't do this because I don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And if I shorten the blocks to fit into these little slots, what happens is I can't fit it. You know what I'm saying? So what I got to do is I have to always contain some kind of preparation of the sport event itself into my training. So if you're a hammer thrower or shot putter or somebody else, you have to have this training in there built in. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think only athletes who are already at that level can afford that, right? So obviously there's a path that you got to go get better, right? And during that getting better, you do have to be a little bit overtrained, quote unquote overtrained, right? Like you have to push yourself to the soreness so your muscle can build, right? You need that soreness so muscle can build. So do you think there's only for periodization is there for only already prepared or
I think in the beginning, like so developmental stages, in the beginning stage, like a young athlete, someone like that, they're not going to be in that environment. Yeah. So you're going to adapt to your environment. So in the beginning stages, you have to do this stuff, changing the physiological change. When you're training somebody in the beginning to build up the training reserve, the beginning, it's physical.
Yeah.
Physical development.
Obviously, 120 kilos and 240 is not the same thing, right?
No, it's not. No. McKay's first workout as a freshman was 110 kilos.
There you go. Yeah.
Last one before NCAA was 500 something.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? It's not the same. at all.
Exactly. Number one.
You know, so it's like, so it's sort of like, first, physical development is easy. You work hard, get sore, recover, work, blah, blah, blah. The training works really well with that. You get a little bit better. Now the speed of the movement goes up. That's the thing. When the speeds are lower, right? It's like if you have a lower speed, right?
Yeah.
The intensity is lower of the exercise, so you can do more things.
Yeah. The
The
power
speed
on your
goes
body
up.
is less. Yeah. The stress on your body is less.
Yeah, it goes up. The more speed, and when you start getting to a speed where you're like almost at the world record, it becomes more like, yeah, you have to prepare for it, but you already know how you're going to prepare for it, right? I have a library of them. I've done it for 5, 10, 20, whatever years. There's a library of things that this works, this works, this works. So I don't need to mess around with anything else. I know this A, B, and C is going to work for this period of time. Maybe I change it a little bit to don't get too adapted, right? A little bit changes here and there just to keep it, but the pattern, you know what it is. So as long as I know what the pattern is, I can fit that into my training year as I go along. And as more experience and maturity, are they going to be able to do that? So you can do it. I mean, it's different training philosophical, like training methodologies, not philosophy, methodologies, you know, like a block training, classic periodization, etc. There's a lot of different ways to do it. It's just, you got to find the fit that works for you. Is it going to fit in what you want to do? You know, if I'm I don't know, if I'm from somewhere where I'm not going to go to Diamond League, for example, I can give all of that up.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not doing it doesn't matter.
It changes practice, changing your preparation completely. Depending on your
But if I have to do these meets, I have to go to this place, another place, then I have to project that into my training.
and you have to go to school. You have finals.
Well, that's a college student, right?
And
If you're going to school,
in UVA, you have some serious things to take care of.
yeah. Well, if you're a student at the university, then you gotta really. That's a different consideration, right? Not so much that the competitions. We know what the competitions are, but if somebody's studying chemistry or they're studying engineering or something, or architecture, business, something, they're going to be spending time in the classroom. So I can't have this kind of volumetric training. 6 hours, 4 hours, obviously NCAA is 4 hours training, whatever. I can't do that because that kid is not going to be able to go. Now they're ineligible, then doesn't. It's not a good idea. So you have to be very strategic about what you're trying to do and how you want to do it.
I love that you just said that. I think a lot of parents who will be watching this and high school coaches will really appreciate this. I don't think there's anything more that you want to know than how your coach, the kid, where your kid's gonna go, like how the coach is looking at your kid as a whole person, right? So you're looking at this kid's not just, okay, we got to throw, but you got to study. You have to take care of your academics first, and then by that we're gonna mold your practice. I think that's a very point that you just mentioned. And what do you like to do for these parents that are watching? When the kid comes to school, in terms of training, how do you make your practices, right? So obviously you were talking
usually
about how you can make the volume, right? What do you look for, and how are you gonna, how do you sit down with an athlete? Like, this is what do you want to study? This is what we're gonna do, or how do you approach it?
Well, basically what happens is I over the course of some time, I've talked to the advisor, and I know how much time you need to set aside for study. So that's already built in for everybody. I really enforce that. Take advantage of academic services as much as possible. Even if you're a 4.0 student, doesn't matter. Just go use it. Don't. And Cal is really, really good at that. I think that's kind of where it started, actually. From some people told me, like, that's initially they did that because the students are like, well, this school is,
nice.
So they that kind of stuff. Not all the universities have it, but they really take advantage of stuff, so it makes your life easier, anyways, in general, because that makes things easier overall. But what I do with the training is we sit down and talk. Mainly, it's very simple ideology. Like, okay, I need you to, this much work is what we need to do to get to where we got to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And what I usually do is I'll focus on things that are going to work the best. If I know, for example, for a hammer thrower, we need to take so many repetitions, about 8,000, 7,000 throws to basically get to a point where you're going to go, right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to organize the volume. And then when we organize the volume, we set it up and say, okay, so I know this much work is going to go here. This much work is going to go to the weight room. And then, okay, so this is the amount of training we're going to do, okay? But what I do is I really work hard on sustaining the main portions of the training that are the most important parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done it for years now. Like, I just don't put stuff that I know is not going to work.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about the warm-up thing. I get, like I think we talked about this a few years ago. You're like, oh, well, warm-up, what do I do? It doesn't matter, because if you go to major championship, you warmed up in a stadium somewhere else, then you have to sit 1 hour, then you have to do another thing 2 hours, then you go to stadium, then you take 2 warm-ups, then you got to wait because somebody went in the stadium, then you got to wait some more because another guy went in the stadium, then they have a flag ceremony, then they have a video, then you're waiting. Cold, you have to go there, throw PR in the stadium.
You know what I used to thought? I thought cold room, before my English was better, I thought they called it cold room. Like cold.
No, it's cold room.
Like, it makes sense. You cool down. Like, this is the cold.
Yeah, you just go there. So it's like, you got to know how to warm. I mean,
you gotta
warm up, but you got to be able to warm up on the spot. And and the other idea is, like, practice should be as close as possible to competition environment, right? Because, like, if I go to practice and I'm training and everything, and there's a sense of, like, okay, well, we're just practicing, and then coaching, practice. Like, this is good for learning. But when I'm going to get ready for NCAA championships, I don't have time to talk at NCAA championships to anybody, because, there's 2 protests going on. There's a guy that's messed up about something else. This guy just threw a PR. Another guy is going crazy. Something else is happening. Head coach is texting you. All this stuff is going on. You don't have time to sit there and explain anything. It's like, okay, look, right now you need to throw, I don't know, say, we didn't talk about javelin. Javelin, you need to throw 75 to make final, right? Okay, I'm not going to sit there and explain to you how to run up. You already know. 75. Increase the intensity, get a bigger block, go. Okay, now what happened? On the phone, something else? You know what I mean? There's so many things that are going on at the same time in major championship. So if that guy is going to runway to warm up, you have a 30-minute warm-up, something like that. You better learn to warm up in those 30 minutes from 0 to ready to compete, because you don't have a chance for something else. That's what I'm saying.
I love that you take that in account already, probably in the fall, right? Like, you begin the training with that ending on in your mind, right?
Yeah, we have to, because the time is short. The enemy of everybody sport, time.
Yeah.
Right? You start before you know it's finished. And then, okay, did you do your best? So you can't. It's not good to take kind of short, like, side avenues and stuff like that.
I love that, and I love that in your, what I can see in your athletes is a lot of mentality. They bring mentality. They're mirroring your mentality. I can see them coming up, and I can see, like, the confidence that you bring in. And this is something that I saw you do in practice every day, right? Like, you're coming up with this plan. You set it up in the beginning of the year, and it makes so much sense now. When your athletes come to the main meets, they're like, this is what we're going to do. We have been doing this for the whole year. Now we've got to actually. This is another day, right?
I'll tell you.
Adrenaline, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I learned that from my aunt. She has 2 PhDs as research scientist, veterinarian, and she just passed away last year. Super smart. When we were little, when we first came to US, we went and stayed with them, and she was studying. Like, she was studying some books. I was like, you're a professor. Why are you studying?
Yeah. Like,
it's crazy. Like, 10 o'clock at night, Sunday night, studying.
Studying, yeah.
She had, like, own research lab, scientific grants, all kind of stuff. Like, why are you studying? She's like, I have a lecture tomorrow. Yeah. I was like, is that stuff in the lecture? She's like, no. I'm like, why are you studying? She said, because if I go to university and teach in university, the students that are coming there are going to challenge me to know what I'm talking about. Okay? They want to know that I know what I'm talking about. They're going to ask me hard questions, very hard questions. Yeah. Because she was teaching a PhD program. So they're going to ask really tough questions and everything. And I have to know more than they do, because if they ask me a question, I better know the answer about it. Because if I don't know, they're going to lose confidence in me. Right? So this is kind of my idea. I learned that from that. I was like, this is crazy. But it didn't kind of go until I started coaching. And then, hey, coach, why do I need to turn my right foot? Yeah. Or something else. So you better know what you're talking about, right? You better know, because the sport is very, very, very painful sport. The measuring tape is right there all the time,
And I love how much responsibility you take. And this is why John Newell from tennis, we talked about the other day, about 5 coaches that we will recommend, except our own, right? Schools where we would send athletes, you were within that 5 for me, because of this reason, because you take so much responsibility on yourself. And I think many coaches, and this is me included. When I was an athlete, I never thought about this, how coaches can impact my life, not just in throwing, in everything, right? So you take time to learn as much as you can, because you know you have the responsibility to be the best version of yourself, right? You have to be that person who they can look up to or not, but you have to say, at the end of the day, I did everything that I could to make your life easier and better, right, than it is, and make you better every day. And this is what you do over the years. And I remember, this is in your blood, Mo. I remember looking at the video with Don Babbitt, right? This is number 5. And we had this his office, right? So there was rare occasion when you were worthy, you will come to watch this video.
Yeah, the office. Yeah, he's got the videos.
Only if you're worthy, you will come and watch this inspirational video, and close the door, lights, a couple of us, right? And Coach Babbitt, and we're like, oh my God, what are we watching? And it was you doing cleans after 7 or 8 times. You did it.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And then 8 times you did it, and you're like, ah! This is how bad you need to want it, right? This is how bad you need to want it. And I love that you have that, and it proves over the years. That's why I think you're so successful. And I think a lot of parents appreciate this. And when they get to know you, this is you, and I'll be comfortable, sending my kid to somebody like you.
Absolutely.
I know that you don't, like you said, you don't have, like your aunt, like she doesn't know everything, right? Like she knows so much. She knows so much already, 2 PhD, but she doesn't know everything, and she wants to make sure that those students, when they push.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, right? Oh, somebody sends you their kid, they're sending him to you, regardless of what happens. You're responsible, because if you weren't recruiting a kid, they wouldn't come to you, obviously. So it's a big responsibility. I think when I recruit kids, I'm pretty straightforward. Hey, this is what we do. This is how we do it. Some of the stuff you're gonna really enjoy and like. Some of the stuff you're gonna be like, this is ridiculous. I don't want to do it. Some of the stuff you're gonna agree with. Some of the stuff, but that's life. It's just a way part of growth and that kind of thing. And I try to be very straightforward with all the information, so they know what's going on. And when they come and join the team too, same. I tell them, look, this is good, this is bad, this is up, down, whatever it is, and so they understand. Because a lot of times I think we tell kids, oh, I'm coaching an athlete. It's not just an athlete; it's a person. They're doing something. There's a human being attached to it. Like not just like you're not coaching a robot. That kind of thing. So it's really important to keep that in mind. Because you're using people's children, and it's very important. You're somebody. It's their experience. What they're going to learn from you is going to be a lot more applicable to their life than maybe they learn from anybody else. Because it's the only setting in any, whether it's the U.S. or anywhere else, it's the only setting where you're working directly one-on-one with somebody for long periods of time.
For 4 years, 5 years, and how many?
4 or 5
today.
And even so like that. What else do you do in your life that has that? That's why it's very important.
It's not for everybody, and I think coaches like you have to get more credit. And I think there's some incredible high school coaches who do a great job that makes our lives so much easier. That they give their lives to coaching. Someone like Ed Miller, who was my coach at Cal.
Yeah.
Coaching, right? He doesn't have to coach, but he's bringing that to the athlete, and he's making these kids a better people, right? Or he's trying. He's doing his best, right? Like sometimes you can do so much, right?
Yeah.
But he's giving himself there, and that's so admirable. That's so worthy of putting even more attention to those people, because they need all the credit. They don't get enough credit. Yeah.
What I can tell you is that a lot of the coaches that I've talked to, the guys that I look up to, coaches and stuff like that, people that it's funny. Most of them hardly ever we talk about coaching stuff. Like, what do you do your training? How many lifts do you do? How many sets of cleans do you do? How many leg curls? It's more mainly talking about these kind of things. Like, well, this kid, how do you get him better? Like, how do you get him bought into what you're doing? Or how do you like motivate your group? Or how do you make a culture? Or that kind of stuff. And those are important things. Like, those are the conversations I've had that made my coaching more. I think it was more value to my coaching. Was how do you develop them outside of just the training stuff? The training stuff, I think, is pretty straightforward. And if you pay attention, that part is obviously important. But when you talk to the guys that have been experienced a long time, people that, like, guys I look up to, like Don and Coach Rodriguez, Dr. B, those guys like that, and they're rarely do you talk about, like, you know, you got to turn your right foot, or you got to do this or that. It's more like, you know, that guy needs to practice more when he comes in. He has to be more disciplined when he comes to practice. Or maybe this guy needs to be more pay more attention to such and such or something else or whatever. You know what I mean? Those are some of the things that that I learned, you know, over time. And this is an important part. I mean, the nuts and bolts of it are after a while you kind of figure out what works and doesn't work. You got to pay attention. But I think with another thing is the culture of a group. Every group has a culture. Okay, every group has a culture. Doesn't matter whether you want or not. They have it. And the thing is, like, you can influence that culture as a coach. I mean, you're not part of it. That's the thing that most coaches don't understand. And I think the younger coaches, mainly, it's like, I'm with the guys. It's like, no, you're not with the guys. You're a coach. No. You may be there with them physically, but they have their own universe.
Yeah.
But you can influence that universe if you emphasize certain things. If you put value to say, hey, this guy had a great workout today, man, that's awesome. That's the way to do it, or whatever. Or you get to play the music in the weight room, or stuff like that, where you emphasize certain characteristics that you want to see. You know, like, hey, you know, this girl here in the discus, she was awesome, man. She did this job good. You know, she gets to, you know, did the warm up for weight room or something like that, or that kind of thing. So you know, they feel like they get value added to them as a person. That characteristic is useful for us. That characteristic, leadership, the leadership is part of your. That's what we want to see, or something like that. You know.
That's what you talked about. You know, coaches who influenced you, but also the groups that you are with. John and I talk about how, you know, you are who you are with, right? So that group of people that us coaches that we choose to bring into that group, we can make that group better, or we can make it worse if we don't make a good choice of the character, right? And then we'll help every kid that we can to the point that we can, right? Like, you'll do everything to help them, but you don't. Not necessarily everybody fits that group, right? Or
yeah, it's a kind of, it's a mentality you have to have. You know, I think a lot of people get enamored with if you get enamored with the results, you know, and then, oh, this kid did this kid did that. It's like, okay, that's great, but are they? Maybe they're doing their thing very well, but they might not be good for the other people. They may be taking up too much oxygen from other people, or something like that, you know, or whatever it is. Or maybe they're kind of, you know, sometimes it's good to have some guys that are like kind of renegades in your group, like a rebel.
Yeah.
It's good to have some of that, you know, like this, oh, that guy's crazy, man, I don't mess around with him, or whatever. It's kind of thing. It's good to have some of that, but you don't want it to be disruptive to what you want to do. You know what I mean? You know, you have to have a little bit, you know, you gotta have a little, you know, you gotta have some spikes and horns on you sometimes, but you don't want it to be to a point where your team is getting disrupted. Then you gotta,
and you don't want the team to go against each other, right? Like, somebody's selfish, you know, like, oh, this is my discus, or like, this is my time in the weight room, right? Like, you don't want that.
Yeah. You don't want to have the kind of attitude like that, no. But do I want to, you know? I tell the guys, I'm like, hey, new guys coming in to beat you. That's why I brought them. You better work harder. They're gonna come after you. You know.
Oh, I love that you just said that. I love that you just said it. I had a couple of in the past, and that's exactly what we did. Right? This is what I did here. Like, okay, well, you know, this guy is already squatting this much. I'm just saying, you know, he's your teammate. I'm just saying. Like,
yeah, I mean, you know,
competition, right? It's a positive pushing, you know.
Yeah. I mean, like, you gotta know, you know, you gotta keep that kind of like
you want to be alpha male, right? Like, you want to work to be an alpha, right?
Yeah. So it's like I don't know if you know this guy. His name is Jack Welch. He was a CEO of GE a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Leadership books, yes.
Yeah, leadership, and he was actually started out as a chemical engineer. I think he's very famous on that stuff, and he has a big thing about being competitive, and always trying to go to the front, fighting your way, because that's how you know, survival, right?
I get better. Yeah, that's how.
But you gotta create an environment so they understand it. But everyone has to understand why it needs to be competitive. Yeah. I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, if it's so competitive, I can't make it. You know, it's hard. That's the hard part, right? But the thing is that whatever you do in practice or training is not going to be the same. You know, can you imagine the feeling of a senior? They go to NCAA regional meet, for example, and they're going to be 13th place. Can you imagine that feeling? You know, like, it's not good.
That's tough.
You know, or can you imagine somebody try so hard for something and career ends, they didn't make Olympic Games, for example. Yeah. I mean, that happens a lot more. That happens a lot more than the other way, you know? So if you have the tools to be able to teach them what they need to do, maybe that 13th became 12th. Or maybe that guy made the team or whatever, or something like that. But even if they don't, they're going to have a feeling like, hey, you know what? I did everything I could do.
Exactly.
I was able to take it.
You go home knowing that you tried your best and you did everything that you could have at that point, and you don't have no regrets. Regrets sting you. They sting.
Yeah, it's painful. You can look back and say, oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done something. So that's one of the things that you were asking about meeting with the guys. When I first meet with somebody, we don't really talk about too much about training or technique or what I'm going to do or not do. What I talk about is I just basically say we're going to do everything possible. Obviously, the rules and everything, right? Everything that we can maximize, whatever we can maximize. So whenever the time comes, or you take your shoes off, tradition like wrestling, when they retire, they take the shoes and leave it in the circle and they leave. I say when you leave your shoes in the circle and leave, you got to leave saying, you know what, there was nothing I could do to throw further. I did everything. I maximized everything. So when you leave, you feel like, okay, I'm at peace with it. You know what I mean?
And that's a career worth having, and that's everything in life, right? Like I think, usually athletes don't. At least I wasn't appreciating of the process that I went through in training. Right? It teaches you for life. Right? It teaches you life habits like winning and losing. Making those discipline, right? Having discipline to do things. It just goes on because you're an athlete for so long, right? Like you can throw X number of years, it's not 50, right? Like you can be, if you're the best person out there, maybe 15, 20 years, let's say 20, but you're still living 40, 50 years after that. What do you do then, right? Like your life does not stop with athletics, and I think that's a very important lesson that you.
Well, you learn, you got to learn how to, you got to learn how to be competitive, and you got to learn how to be able to improvise and be able to be flexible on it. I think a lot of, and that's one thing I will say, in terms of development, is understanding what needs to get done. Like you were asking in the beginning, like what I'm more interested. How did you Why did you do these things? And how did you think about coming about doing it, the procedures of it? If you understand that, you can apply that to, the work, to life, to whatever. You want to be a CEO. After you finish throwing, you want to go be a CEO of a company. Well, what do I do to be that? It's a competition. There's other guys that want to be there too, or girls, or whatever. They want to be there. How am I going to be better than them?
Many more, right? Many more.
It's a bigger competition. So those are the things I look at. And I think it kind of leads to like a lot of we talked a lot of stuff, not about training too much, but with training, I see a lot of coaches, they're looking for a direct answer. Right? Hey, how come your guy threw this many meters? Ask him. I didn't do it. I didn't throw that. He did it. Right? But what did you guys do? I said, well, we lifted, we threw, we did this, we did that. We used a 20-pound shot. We used a 10-kilo shot. Oh my God! Why did you use the tank too much? Okay. So you already didn't want to listen. I think a lot of times this is what happens. But sometimes another person will say, "Oh, how come you don't do like more weight room? How much more weight room do I need to do? Like I have guys, they push it over 500. Girls squatting, box squat 600 pounds, and she doesn't even weigh 200 pounds. Like, how much more do I need in the weight room? So those are the things, like I think a lot of people are looking for some kind of a specific, hey, I have a kid that doesn't turn his foot in a hammer throw. And somebody asked me this question, actually. I remember somewhere somebody wrote an email asking, hey, my hammer throw doesn't turn his foot. And I wrote it back, did you look at the hammer? And he wrote me back, I don't care about the hammer. I was like, well, is he throwing his foot or his hammer? After no email. I was like, like, pay attention. So anyways,
no, that's so much. You spill so much knowledge right here. I want to ask you just a couple more things, and then we can see if we can go live for Instagram.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. What is in terms of technique? So you're talking about that position, right? Torre talked about how with Koji, right? There's biomechanically some things made more sense biomechanically, but when they tried to do it, it wouldn't go as far, right? So is that what you're talking about?
So there's things like it with Koji. I was with him a couple of weeks actually before I even got the job at Cal. He came to hang out with him.
Yeah, because you
brought me here 3 weeks. He used to come up to Flagstaff a lot and throw up there and everything. We used to talk a lot. Like we would go to Denny's. I remember in Flagstaff, across the street from the hotel. I'd sit there and talk like 3 hours, 4 hours. He liked to go there because he was like, I don't know why he liked to go there. Actually, I never figured out. He used to go there and talk like a long time about. He was very big on harmonious movement and harmonious feeling of the implement. It's a long story. You can talk 2 days about it. But he's like, there's some technical things that I can do. There's other stuff I can't do. Not necessarily it's because of physical. Physical, he could do whatever he wanted to do. By the way, he could lift a lot, do some crazy stuff. But there was things that he could do. I think it was more of an understanding type of a situation where if it fit in his sphere of understanding, he could do it. If it didn't fit in there, he couldn't do it. So it's very simplified, obviously. Okay. My observation of it.
Yeah. So what you touched on that, there's some things. So what you're saying, there's some things that you should do, like in terms of technique, but you can't, right? Like, your body, you're not strong enough to do that. So you're basically tapping.
Yeah, maybe flexible, strong. But there's actually what it should be is there's things that have to happen. Okay. There's some things that if it doesn't happen.
Yeah, like we talk about balance, 2 feet right on the ground. That's a must. Like there's no.
Yeah. If that however way you're doing it to make that happen, that's up to you. But that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like in an entry and a discus. Remember, we're in I remember we were talking. Remember in Flagstaff, we were in this Mexican restaurant, and the driveway was like this, and it was icy. We were like, remember that we were talking about entry. Like, I don't care. You can bring 500 discus throwers that throws far. You look at an entry. There's some things you have to be on the left side. There's like very important things that you have to be over it. You have to be down there, and like there's things that if that doesn't happen, throw doesn't go far. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So now how I don't know. So Wilkins does it one way. Paul does it another way. Gumchev another way. Harding one way. Essa another way. This new guy is coming from Sweden another way. But they all do. They get to this place on their left leg. Yeah. And the left leg is going, and then they follow it in. All of them do that. Now, how do they get there? It's their own coach and own system. Whatever.
And it's their signature, right? Like it's like everybody has their own signature.
Yeah.
And the purpose is the same, right? To make write your name. How you do it is very different.
But your signature always has your name in it.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? It's your signature, as there's certain characteristics has to happen, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's more important. Like how and I think that's people get too wrapped up. It kind of was like in 90s. Sadiq was coming to U.S. and doing clinics, hammer throwing clinics. Yeah. And the guys are telling him, I saw you landed like this, and your foot was this way, and your leg was that way, and this and that, and landing like facing here, facing there. And then when he would demonstrate his turns, it didn't look anything like it. Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do, right? They're like, but I'm sorry. And then people thought he was lying about it. But he's like talking about it. He's like, no, I'm not trying to drop. I'm not trying to do this. I'm throwing 86 meters. Yeah, I want to get thrown around. The ball's moving. It's not standing still where you can do, things. Yeah. And like those kind of things. Or I've heard like, I saw like Zelazny talk about javelin. Like I do this. It's like I look like that. I'm throwing. It's moving 90 meters. Yeah. It's gonna look something. Like you're arming too soon or some. I don't know. There was one European athletic. He was talking and somebody mentioned, you're saying that the hip is going, but when you watch a video, then you show that your arm. Like that's a world record throw. Yeah. Then you stop talking. It's like, okay.
What else? Yeah. What else are we gotta talk about, right?
You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of like, there's some peculiarities, but there's things that all of them happen. So
there's the basis, and then a good coach has to look into that every thrower has its own writing, right? It's the different strength, different weaknesses, different things that you utilize. So that's very important. So yeah, that's good.
Pretty much not even the next step, but the concurrent step, I would say. We're probably a little bit ahead of the result one is the academic performance.
Okay.
Are they academically viable for us? Have to have excellent grades, have good test scores, be able to follow the good system of education. Are they able to withstand the academic rigors of Cal and be in a school here? So those are the two things I look at. The next one, I guess the next stage is how are they developing? I want to see a developmental arc going upwards. If somebody has the same result one after another, that's kind of like maybe they're not developing so much, but I want to see his uptrend.
Okay.
For sophomore, junior, senior is going up. Someone like that, that's their developmental curve. That's another thing I look at. And then, as I said, result in major championships. How well did you do in your state meet? How well did you do in your conference or league or whatever? How well did you go to did you get a chance to go to a national meet? How well did you compete at the national meet? So those are the things that I look at. Now, if you didn't get a chance to go, I'm not going to knock the kid for it. You can't afford to spend $2,000 on plane tickets to go to New Balance or something like that. I'm not going to. I'm not doing that. But the local area, what did you do? Because most of the kids are going to be in the local area, right? In their own local area and that kind of thing. I mean, so that's pretty much what we look at.
Okay. And then when it comes to your training philosophy, right? So what are some things? What I have been asked a lot by high school athletes, I'm sure you as well, when we recruit them. What is a day like at Cal, right? In terms of training, what's a typical training day?
So typical training day, or I guess the training methodology we use. I don't like to use philosophy too much because philosophy gets weird. You start going under a tree and looking for apples to fall on your head or something else. But in terms of what we do, all right, and a training day is very, very straightforward. All right, all days when you start training, throwing is always done first. We throw. Okay. We have a little bit of rest, then we go to secondary exercise, special exercise, whatever that is, like jumping, running, some kettlebell, whatever it is, and then we'll go in the weight room. In the fall, so we have some challenges. One of the challenges that in the fall, our stadium is used by soccer. Okay. Edward Stadium in Berkeley was actually the first track and field stadium in the United States. Yep. It's an old build. It's old.
1904, something like that. 1900 something, right?
1920 something.
Yeah, 20. Okay.
Wow. Been there for a long time. So we can't use the field for a throw, so we have to go to Richmond Field Station, which is about 15 minutes away. Facility, and it's a research facility. They have a field there, but it's there's the world's I think it's the world's largest paper suppository library in the world just for the UC system. They have research labs for autonomous vehicles and drones and engineers and all sorts of stuff, jet engines, all kind of crazy stuff out there. So we go out there in the fall, usually we do it in the afternoon. We go out there for approximately about 2.5 hours or so for training and everything, and then come back in and we go in the weight room. Usually our training sessions after the soccer ends, we come back to the stadium and I divide it up by events. So hammer throws in the morning because we have the stadium, we can do stuff. In general, also hammer throw competitions in the United States are in the morning, so might as well get used to it. Okay. We talked about that a little bit. You got to be used to what you're doing. If I train you at 6 o'clock every day in the afternoon, and then I say, Martin, tomorrow we're gonna go throw discus in San Diego, 10 o'clock. Yeah, that doesn't feel so good. I try to keep it as close to reality as possible. So we do hammer in the morning, then javelin usually mid-afternoon, and then shot put, then discus at the end, and then the guys come and the ladies come in different groups, and then once they do their training, they go away and study because obviously Berkeley's got a lot of stuff going on, so we manage that, and then we all get back together again in the weight room usually around 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. So that's a typical day. What do you like to see in an email? How do you like athletes to reach you? And what's the format and where?
Okay, so you can email me. I'm a berkeley.edu address. It's msaatara, which is MSAATARA at berkeley.edu. So you can email me there. You can find me on the social media, on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I just look at things. We could do that there, I guess, too. I mean, it's not too much. Send me information and questions, whatever. Usually, as long as it's within NCAA rules, I'm more than happy to help out. What I like to see in an email is basically just your general information, specific information, general to specific, right? Your age, height, weight, that kind of stuff, abilities. And I like to see some of that information. I like to see your throwing information. How much do you have a coach? Do you not have a coach? What have you done? Just the basic stuff like that. And then academic, obviously very important academic information. That's very critical for us. If they send me academic information, it should always be in PDF. Okay. So don't scan like a screenshot or something like that. Your test scores, those kind of things should be PDFs. That kind of stuff for administrative purposes. That's what they want to see. And things that I like to see is some idea about what they're doing. Things, I guess, in terms of like people to email me, hey, I want a scholarship. And that's it. I'm like, I don't know who you are. You know, I want a scholarship too. You know, that kind of thing. I think it's
Be more specific than that. Yeah.
be more specific what you want to do, how you want to do it, and stuff like that. So, that'll be
Coach
good.
Mo, this was amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Really.
You put so much knowledge out there. This is going to be very helpful. I wish when I was going through the recruiting system, the whole process, right? I had information like this. So
Yeah.
help a lot of people.
Me too.
Especially,
Live and learn, right?
what's the D1? What's D2? Right?
Yeah, I don't know what that is. It's just something. People are throwing things. I don't know what's going on, you know. So, okay, but I really appreciate it, Martin. Hey, it's always nice to follow you guys, especially you're doing such amazing work. Thank you very much for inviting me. You guys keep stay healthy and keep it going. Okay.
Thank you, Coach, so much. Likewise, and I hope to talk to you soon again. Thank you.
Thank you. Same here. Take care. Yeah.